It was a dark and stormy night in the small town of Millfield. The rain was coming down in sheets, and the wind was howling like a pack of wolves. It was the kind of night where you just wanted to curl up in bed with a good book and wait for the storm to pass. But not everyone in Millfield had the luxury of staying inside that night. There was one man who was out in a storm, wandering the streets alone. His name was Jack, and he was a drifter who had been passing through town for the past few days. Jack had been looking for work, but no one in town seemed interested in hiring a stranger off the street. So he spent his days wandering around, looking for something to do, and his nights sleeping in alleyways or abandoned buildings. On this particular night, Jack was walking down Main Street, trying to find some shelter from the storm. He was soaked to the bone and shivering from the cold. As he walked, he saw a light in the distance. It was coming from a house at the end of the street. Jack walked towards the light, hoping to find some help or at least a place to warm up. When he got to the house, he saw that it was a large, old mansion that looked like it had been abandoned for years. The light was coming from a single window on the second floor. Jack hesitated for a moment, wondering if he should knock on the door or just keep walking. But then a bolt of lightning lit up the sky, and he heard a loud crash of thunder. That was enough to make up his mind. He ran up the front steps of the mansion and knocked on the door. To his surprise, the door swung open on its own. Jack stepped inside, calling out for anyone who might be there. But the mansion was silent, and the only sound he could hear was the rain pounding against the roof. Jack walked up the stairs to the second floor, following the light. As he walked down the hallway, he saw that all of the doors were closed except for one. The light was coming from under the door. He hesitated for a moment before pushing the door open. Inside, he saw a room that was filled with old furniture covered in dust sheets. The only thing in the room that wasn't covered was an old rocking chair in front of the window. And sitting in the rocking chair was an old woman. She was staring out the window, and she didn't turn around when Jack entered the room.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Trying to be polite, Jack said,
I was caught in the storm, and I was hoping to find some shelter.
The old woman didn't respond. She just kept staring out the window. Jack tried again.
I'm sorry to bother you, ma'am. I'll just sit here for a while and then be on my way.
But still, the old woman didn't respond. Jack sat down in a nearby chair and tried to make himself comfortable. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the old woman. Her skin was wrinkled and pale, and her eyes were glazed over like she was in a trance. He was about to get up and leave when he heard a sound outside the door. It was a low growling sound, like a dog. Jack stood up and walked towards the door, hoping to see what was making the noise. But as he got closer, the growling turned into a snarl, and then something leaped out from the shadows and tackled him to the ground. It was a creature that Jack had never seen before. It was covered in fur and had glowing red eyes. Jack tried to fight off the creature, but it was too strong. He managed to grab hold of a nearby lamp and swung it at the creature, hitting it in the head. The creature let out a high-pitched howl and ran out of the room. Shaken and disoriented, Jack picked himself up off the ground and looked around the room. The old woman was still sitting in the rocking chair, staring out the window. But now, her eyes seemed to be focused on something in the distance. Jack slowly made his way over to the window and looked out. He saw a pack of creatures like the one that had just attacked him, roaming the streets in the storm. They were snarling and snapping at the air, as if searching for something. Jack realized with horror that these creatures were not of this world. They were something else entirely, something that shouldn't exist. Suddenly, he heard a voice behind him. It was the old woman, but her voice was different now. It was deep and guttural, like it was coming from something other than a human.
You shouldn't have come here,
the old woman said.
This town belongs to us.
Jack turned around and saw that the old woman's eyes had turned red. and her skin was now stretched tight over her face, like a mask. He ran out of the room and down the stairs, trying to find a way out of the mansion. But every door he tried was locked, and he couldn't find a way out. The creatures outside were now scratching at the windows and doors, trying to break in. Jack knew he had to find a way out before they got in. He ran down into the basement, hoping to find a way out through a window or a cellar door. But what he found was something much worse. In the middle of the basement was a large pit filled with bones and rotting flesh. And standing over the pit was a group of people, all of them with red eyes and stretched skin. They turned to face Jack, and he knew then that he was never going to leave this place alive. As the creatures closed in around him, Jack realized too late that he had stumbled into a town that had been taken over by demons, and he was about to become next victim.